Welcome to the worst Tuesday you've ever had. I'm Marc, creator and designer from Barbados, and today I'm playing through the free demo of my new solo roguelite zine, Holy Flaming Samurai, man. Now the concept is simple. It's finally arrived. The replica weapon you ordered online is in a box on your coffee table on a Tuesday evening. The moment you pick up the weapon, you catch entirely, authoritatively on fire. The fire doesn't burn your skin, but it reveals the terrifying Jumbies from Caribbean folklore that have been secretly living in your apartment. Now, we aren't going to spend 30 minutes reading rules today. Holy Flaming Samurai Man is built on a zero friction, modular tutorial design. You don't need to memorize a massive rulebook to play. The game teaches you exactly what you need to know sequentially the moment a monster is revealed by the fire. Now, we're doing this using a free digital card simulator. I don't need dice, trackers, or high-end gear. Just this PDF and a standard 52 card deck, which is going to act as our clock, our randomizer, and our weapon. So this game doesn't use any dice. It uses, as you can see here, let's zoom in a bit. This uses playing cards, and I'm using a free digital card simulator for this, but you are more than welcome to use a physical deck of playing cards, regular poker style playing cards. Every time I draw a card from the deck to make decisions, to do damage, that drains time from the game. When the cards run out, that's game over. Game over, man. Now, before we actually get to play, there's one thing we need to do, and that is to calculate the session threat score. Now, this deck of cards is not just a randomizer. It's, like I said before, timepiece, a ticking clock. Every card we draw costs 1 tick of time. If the deck runs out before we clear the room or a run fails, the night resets and we start this Tuesday all over again. Now here's how the session threat score works. We draw 1 card at a time, and we need a total of 6 cards. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Each of these cards, we're just looking for the numbered cards, 2 to 10. If we get any face cards, we just discard them and we draw again. So we got a jack here. Put that aside. Queen. Put that aside. All right, a 9, a 3, and a 4. Now, don't be afraid to use your calculators here, people. I'm certainly not. So 5 plus 9 plus 7 plus 9 plus 3 plus 4 gives us 37. Now, this 37 is a little higher than the target range, up to 35. I didn't want to give too hard fight. So there's actually a suggested range, but we're going to roll with this 35 here. Again, 5 of hearts, 9 of diamonds, 7 of clubs, 9 of spades, 3 of hearts, and 4 of diamonds. So once you've got that number written down, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to off screen throw up a document, a Google Doc. You can do this with a pencil, paper, pen, crayon, just something to write with. Or if you're doing it like me, working digitally, you can just open up a document, a notepad, and write some of this stuff down. So this 37, this is going to be important. Like I said, this is your session threat score. Every time you start a run, you draw these 6 cards, and this influences the hit points your opponents will have. So we've got that. We've got 35, and I've written it down. So our first boss, well, our only boss, the only fight we have in this demo is a Lagahoo or Lagahoo from Caribbean folklore. His HP is equal to 0.5 times the session threat score. So his HP is going to be 37 times 0.5, which is going to be 18. And we're going to round it up to the nearest 5, so that's going to be 25. All right, so our enemy is going to have 25 hit points, which is, for us, not too terrible. So once we've gotten our boss HP, we've gotten our STS, what we're going to do is just put all of those cards back and shuffle the deck again. There we go, all shuffled up. Once you've drawn your STS, the deck must be complete, all 52 cards, all shuffled up, before your Tuesday can begin. So for Holy Flaming Samurai Man, for this demo, you will have one starter personality. In the full game, you have up to 4 personalities, personas that you can run with. Each of these personas has different skills and they will have a different signature weapon. Here is the starting persona details. In the game, you've got pretty clear instructions about what you need to do. So in this case, for your starter persona, you write your starter profile's numbers on the persona sheet, which is included in the back of the zine. There's also, when you download it from itch, extra download with just the persona sheet, or you can track them on a piece of paper, or like I'm doing, you can use digital equivalent. Your starter persona is the Otaku, which is right on brand. Again, you ordered a replica Japanese weapon from online. The weapon for the Otaku is the Katana, iconic Japanese sword. It's the primary longsword of the samurai. It's worn edge up to allow the draw and the first cut to happen in a single unbroken motion. This gives you your HP is 37. If we look back at the notes for this, we've got more HP than our boss. So that is definitely in our favor. We'll see how it goes. We've got a defense of 7, a passive defense. So any incoming damage has to be more than 7 for that damage to go through. With Holy Flaming Samurai Man, you don't subtract from your HP to register damage. You have what is called accumulated trauma. So you literally add the incoming damage together until you hit or cross 37. Every weapon has a couple of weapon tags. For the katana, it is precise and momentum. And because you have mysticism skills, you've got one down here called glamour. Any mysticism skill that draws a red card succeeds if the math clears, but you gain expose where the next attack against you has advantage. So when you have advantage, instead of drawing 1 card, you draw 2 and keep the highest. So the Lagahoo in this case, I would draw 2 cards if you are exposed and keep the highest. So that's how that works. You've got traits. Traits are the foundation for your skills. And here is your list of skills. You have flowing parry, which is a mastery skill. Flowing Parry is our reaction, so we're going to use that for active defense. In the PDF, all of this stuff is laid out for you, and you can just refer to the PDF to check what your skills are. You've got 6 skills, and the 6 is resolute negotiation. And with this, you're not just beating stuff up. You've got skills for exploration. You've got skills for social interaction. You don't really do a whole lot of socializing with the monsters that you find in your apartment, but you do have a range of skills for each persona that you have. We know what our persona is. We've got a sense of the skills. We know what the weapon is, which is a katana. We know what some of the tags the katana has, and this is our starter class. Let me actually read the narrative for this so you guys can get a good sense of what is going on. I'm actually going to share screen here as well, so you've got something that you can read along with. Here we go. The story begins here. It finally arrived. You order it 3 weeks ago on a website that looks like it was built in 2003 and never updated. The product listing had 4 photos, 2 blurry, 1 suspiciously artistic, 1 that appeared to be a screenshot of a different website entirely. The reviews were either 5 stars with no text or 1 star calling the seller a conduit of the old hunger. You assumed that was a translation issue. The package has been sitting outside your door since this morning. You only just got to it because you had things to do. Normal things. The kind of things that fill a Tuesday. You carry it inside, you set it on a coffee table, you get a knife from the kitchen to cut the tape because you are an adult and you live here and this is how things are done. The kitchen smells faintly of overripe fruit. You don't think about it. You open the box. Inside, wrapped in what appears to be a napkin from your favorite fast food joint, is the weapon. It's exactly as described, maybe better, honestly. You pick it up, and then you are entirely on fire. Not painfully on fire, not dying on fire, more like authoritatively on fire. The flames are yours. They move when you move. They are, somehow, fine. What is not fine is a thing that just came through your front door. Not opened it, not knocked, through it, through the wood and the deadbolt and the chain you put on, because this is a ground floor apartment and you aren't naive about these things. It's enormous. It has no head. Where a head should be, there is a wooden coffin, and on top of the coffin, 3 candles burn without any waver at all. Behind it, trailing across your floor and through the door it just walked through, is a chain so heavy it's left marks on the floorboard. It has been outside, you suddenly understand, for a very long time, waiting, and then you picked up the weapon and lit up like a beacon. And now it's here, and it is looking at you, without eyes, without a face, with a coffin, in the patient way of something that has never once lost. The fire lets you see it. The fire, it turns out, lets you see all of them. Your situation? You're the holy flaming samurai, man. You didn't apply for this position. You were not interviewed, there was no onboarding, and yet here you are, standing in your own living room, completely engulfed in supernatural fire, holding a replica weapon that is apparently not a replica, staring at a headless monster with a coffin for a head that just walked through your front door like it wasn't there. Your task is simple. Go room to room, find what the fire reveals, deal with it. You cannot leave the apartment until every room is clear. You know this the way you know not to microwave metal. Suddenly, completely, and without needing it explained. You have one room, cause this is a demo. We know what the setup is, the introduction, we know our persona, we know the weapon we're wielding, which is a katana. Let's look a bit more at the enemy we're facing, the Lagahoo. In Holy Flaming Samurai, man, these aren't standard generic fantasy monsters. These are real living myths from right here in the Caribbean. The thing that just walked through your front door, it's enormous. It has no head. Where a head should be is a wooden coffin with 3 candles burning on top. Behind it trails, as I said, a massive iron chain dragging across the floorboards. This is a Lagahoo, a shape-shifting and soul collector from Trinidad and Saint Lucian oral traditions. The coffin carries the souls it has collected. The candles are those souls burning. Before we draw for initiative, the Lagahoo copies 1 tag from our weapon. I mentioned that we're using the katana, which has the precise and the momentum tags. Here's what these 2 tags do. Precise allows for attacks to bypass active defense. This means that strikes from a weapon with the precise tag cannot be blocked, and you won't be able to spend your reaction, which is what you use for your active defense, to defend yourself against hits from a precise weapon. The momentum tag means that you gain advantage on attacks, drawing 2 cards and keeping the highest value. Now, if you give either of these tags to the Lagahoo, here's what happens. If you give him the precise tag, his attacks will bypass your active defense, as I mentioned, and you won't be able to spend a reaction to defend yourself against these hits. If you give momentum, he's going to gain advantage, which means he will draw 2 cards and keep the highest value whenever he attacks after shifting forms. This is going to essentially reward him with extra hit probability. You get to choose which tag Lagahoo is going to have. The Lagahoo is able to steal tags, or at least mimic tags, because the Lagahoo has the mimic entity tag. This tag forces the Lagahoo to copy one of your weapon's tags to use against you for the entire encounter. You, as a player, you get to choose which tag he gets. Am I going to give him precise, which means that his hits will bypass active defense, or will I give him momentum, which means he gets to draw 2 cards and keep the highest value whenever he attacks after shifting forms? I think I'm going to give momentum to the Lagahoo. Got that noted down. And now we get to draw for initiative. We're getting close to the fight. This process of explaining what's going to happen, it's simpler, I think, than just having a rule book for this. But it does take a bit of time the first time to get going. Once you've gotten familiar with the game, this will go a whole lot faster. Now, for drawing initiative, the fire that is all over us from this sword, the fire protects us and it gives advantage on initiative. I'm going to draw 2 cards for me. 1 card here, another card here, and I keep the highest of whichever this is. So a 5 of hearts and a 2 of clubs. So I draw 5. So the If the draw for the Lagahoo is higher, they get to go first. So we also get to add our reaction trait to get the total score. The core loop for this game, which is powered by the Monsters and Myths 2E engine, is you declare what you're doing, you draw a card, and then you add the value of that card to your trait rank to get the target number. That is it for just about everything, which includes initiatives. Let me look back at my character sheet here, and my reaction is I'm going with the mastery skill, flowing parry. The trait rank for that is 9. So we're going to be using 5, which is what we drew, the 5 of hearts. The suit doesn't matter at this point. We just need the numbers. So 5 and 9 is that 14? Is my math right? It is. So 14 is the number to beat for initiative. We just draw that once. The initiative for your opponents, in this case the Lagahoo, is a fixed number. So that is 15. Unfortunately, 15 is higher than 14, and that means that the Lagahoo will go first. But the fire from the sword is supposed to protect us, right? Don't worry, that fire is going to give us still something that works in our favor. I'm just going to read it from the book, the game. At the start of every encounter, you draw 2 cards for initiative because the fire protects, and keep the higher value, which I already did, and you add your reaction trait rank. That total I got from adding those 2 numbers determines who acts first. Now, the Lagahoo in this case did win the initiative. 15 is higher than 14. Despite drawing 2 cards, the entity still wins, which is what happened. I receive 1 additional reaction on this first round, usable only for active defense. So I'm going to show you how that works in a moment. Instead of having 1 reaction, which is standard, for this round, I get a second one because the initiative was won by the opponent. So in terms of the action economy, on your turn, you, the player, you have 4 things you can do, 4 decisions you can make. You can attack, and you can attack using either your skills, which have a cooldown, or you can use a base attack, which is just using your weapon. You can have a reaction. You can use a reaction offensively as well as defensively. You can move, so you can move a zone, and this uses zones instead of grids, or you can use an item. The core loop for this game has 5 parts. You declare what you're doing. You draw the top card from the deck. You check to see if you have a face card on an ace. If you do, it's an automatic success. Face cards and aces also have a numbered value. Jacks are 11, queen, kings are 13, and aces are 14. But once you draw that face card, all you need to do is you know that you have succeeded. And the 4th step is to check to see if the card suit that was drawn matches the suit for your skill and your trait. If it does, you get something called synergy, and that means that you have advantage and you can draw a second card and keep the highest of the 2. And again, you add the drawn card value to the trait rank of the skill you're using, and you add those together. That will give you your damage. Enemies in Holy Flaming Samurai Man are different from players. They have particular skills. They don't have as many skills. Some of their traits have fixed numbers. Lagahoo goes first. I go second, assuming I survive. Here is the scene setting ahead of the fight. The Lagahoo came through your front door, not opened it, through the deadbolt and the chain. The way something old and enormous simply does not recognize the distinction between a closed door and an open one. It fills the far wall of your living room. It has no head. Where a head should be, a wooden coffin, balanced on a neck stub. 3 candles burning on top without any waver or gutter, regardless of the air in the room. 1 limb is turned backwards. Behind it, trailing back through your door and out into the corridor, a massive iron chain drags and clanks with every shift of its weight. The Lagahoo is the most complex and dangerous entity in the Trinidadian Jumbie canon. A shapeshifter, a blood drinker, a soul collector. A man, once, who sold himself to darkness and came back as something that wears a coffin where his face should be. The coffin on his shoulders carries the souls he has collected. The candles are those souls, burning. The chain is what he was before, a person who understood the cost of the deal he was making and made it anyway. He did not come for your apartment specifically. He came because you lit up. The fire you are now covered in is the brightest thing for a considerable distance, and the Lagahoo moves towards bright things the way deaths move towards the unprepared. You're, to him, a new development in an otherwise routine evening. He looks at you, without eyes, without a face, with a coffin, with the patience of something that has watched many people decide whether to fight it, what it does. The Lagahoo shifts, not to escape, to disorient. The living room fills with different shapes of a threat in sequence. A massive bull between you and the kitchen doorway, a snarling dog low and fast along the skirting board, something horse-shaped and wrong-moving at a speed the room cannot properly contain. The chain is always audible under every form, dragging, clanking, the sound of it constant, regardless of what shape it is wearing. The coffin candles do not go out. His real weapon is scale and age. He is trying to make you feel like a person who has made a serious mistake by picking up that weapon. Because every person who has faced him before has, in fact, made a serious mistake. You are on fire. Your fire doesn't care how old he is. All right, so that's the pre-fight setup. We drew a card for the initiative. We're just going to have that discarded there. After you've drawn your session threat score and shuffle those 6 cards back in the pack, you don't reshuffle until the game ends. Whether that ends by you completing your run or, well, because something unfortunate happened. We're just going to discard those cards from that previous draw to the side. And let's get into the fight. The Lagahoo goes first. How to fight the Lagahoo? It's simple. On your turn, like I said before, you have 4 decisions. Before you attack, of course, you need to know what you can do. Before an attack, you can either use a skill or a basic attack, which is just slashing with the sword. Basic attacks just do damage. Don't have any tags attached to them, even if the weapon has a tag. You can use a reaction. You can either reserve this, which would trigger on the enemy turn to defend against an incoming attack. So yeah, the second thing you can do a reaction, which is to reserve your reaction against an incoming attack. You declare this in advance. You simply say, I am reserving my reaction. And you can make a note of it on your sheet or on your piece of paper, however you're keeping tracks. You can move, which is moving one zone. These zones I'll talk about in a bit. Or you can reserve it to move to evade a critical attack. Again, you would declare that in advance. Or you can use an item, something from the environment. You can interact with an object, or you can deploy a lore item. Now, in terms of zones and range, movement and distance are measured in abstract zones, which are the rooms and the spaces you occupy. You have engaged. You are in the same zone as an entity. Think of it as being within touch distance. Nearby is an adjacent zone. If you think of it like squares on a checkerboard or a chessboard, you wouldn't be on the same square as if you were, when you were engaged, you would be on the square next to it. And then you have far away, you are 2 zones away, and you can close a distance 1 zone per turn with a move action. Right, so the stats for the Lagahoo, we've got their HP. Their HP is 25. Their defense is 15. So the number we need to beat to do damage is 15. Their damage per hit is the value of a card drawn plus 8. They've got 1 reaction as well, which is a conditional block. And their abilities. They have Mimic, so they would have stolen a skill. They have Momentum. They have Feast. So when they do damage, they steal life for the equal to the amount of damage done from their target. This assumes that the attack hits. So because he has momentum, he gains advantage on attacks after shifting forms. And he's going to shift forms like stages in the fight. If you do a third of his hit points and damage, which at 25 is going to be 8 damage, he's going to shift from the bull to the dog to the horse. So this is going to do 8.3 damage, a flat 8 damage, and he's going to start shifting forms. But to do that 8 damage, we've got to do, well, let me see, 15, basically 23 damage. Yeah, that's when my math is right. Let's get to the fight. This guy is able to go first, and he has momentum. That means he gets to draw 2 cards, but only after shifting forms. So his first attack first attack is going to just be a card draw. I'm going to draw cards for the Lagahoo on the right and cards for myself on the left. First card drawn for the Lagahoo is a 7, and that 7 plus 8 is 15 damage. My defense is not 15 damage, so that's going to go through. So my passive defense is 7, and that is not as high as 15. Because I lost the advantage, I do have 2 reactions. What I'm going to do is use one of my reactions to hopefully negate this damage. I'm going to use my reaction for my active defense. What I need to do is I need to draw a card and add my reaction trait rank number, which is 9, to that. 7 for the Lagahoo plus his 8, that gives him 15. I have declared I'm going to use my active defense, and that's a king. Faces and aces, automatic success. Haha. Just negated the incoming 15 damage from the Lagahoo. In his bull form, with the coffin perched where his head should be, the Lagahoo charges at me, looking to bash me with that coffin where his head should be. And because I use my active defense, I am able to tuck and roll out of the way and avoid that attack. That's the first round. 15 incoming from the Lagahoo, which I negated. It's now my turn to attack. I am going to use a skill. Skills all use cooldowns. That is the resource management for skills. Skills are going to take 3 turns to cooldown. As you progress, as your character gets stronger, that cooldown for your skills is going to drop to 2. But we've got 3 turns. This is the second encounter of this fight. My turn, I'm going to use Tactical Strike, which is under the mastery domain, which uses spades, and the trait rank for that is 6. Let's see what card value. It's an ace, which has a value of 14, and it's also a spade, so I do get synergy, so I get to draw a second card and keep the higher value, but there really isn't anything higher than an ace. Whoa, another ace. All right, cool. 2 aces. So that's going to be 14 damage plus 6, which is 20. The flat defense for the Lagahoo is 15. So I'm going to do 20 damage to the Lagahoo. And because I'm using Tactical Strike triggers Disorient as the standard effect, which means the target cannot use reactions. But because I got a face card, that effect is upgraded to Shutout, which means the target then has 0 defense. So this is a good hit. And in this case, the Lagahoo only has 25 hit points. Remember, and I just did 20, so 6. And the ace is 14. That is automatic success with the face card of the ace. So a straight 20 damage goes to the Lagahoo. Now remember, this enemy changes forms, so it's currently as a bull. Because I did such significant damage to it, you go through 2 phases. So it changes from the bull, it changes from the weird horse, and it's now a dog, and it's got just 5 hit points left. I lunge with my katana, and I slash with my katana, doing massive damage to what is this weird bull taking up a lot of space in my living room. And in a disgusting swirl of flesh, you can see the Lagahoo shifting from a bull, kind of like passing halfway through the initial man with a coffin on his head form. You see a flicker of a weird headless horse with a coffin perched on its neck, until finally it's shifted into its final form, which is a dog. We call this in the Caribbean a salmon taught retriever, which is what we call a mixed breed dog. It's small, not as big as, let's say, a German Shepherd, a little smaller than that, but not as small as, like, say, a Jack Russell or a Chihuahua. Let's say a medium size between those two. Because the 3 candles represent the different phases, 2 of the 3 candles have gone out, and it only has 5 hit points left. That is how quickly this fight has turned on just the second turn of combat. And it's now time for the Lagahoo to draw a card and see if this game doesn't shift again. 2 aces. That was pretty cool. Drawing a card for the Lagahoo. That is an 8. 8 and 8 is going to be 16. So we got 16 incoming damage. Now I get to try to use my active defense again. And let's see if I get lucky again. I have to draw a card and add my reaction score to it. So the incoming damage to me is 16, which is 8 from the card draw and 8 from the flat trait for the Lagahoo. Let's see. And my own passive defense is only 7. If this active defense doesn't work, I'm going to take a hit. All right, that is 9. And my reaction is 9. 2 9s are 18. So 18 and 16, I do manage to avoid that hit. So the dog swipes at me. Again, this is a weird dog with a coffin somehow balance on its neck, so it doesn't really have jaws to snap at. It slashes at me with a paw. I parry it with my katana, and I negate that hit again. All right, this fight is going in my favor. This is the 3rd exchange, and I've got to pick a skill to use. So, Tactical Strike is on cooldown. I am going to use Phantasmal Assault. No, Phantasmal Assault is a mysticism skill. The trait rank is 4, but if I draw a red card, I become exposed, which is going to give my opponent advantage. So, let's see how it's going to go. So, I'm going to use Phantasmal Assault, which at the standard effect is going to trigger Stagger, which is Phantasmal Pain, and they're going to be rooted. If I do get a face card, it's going to have a critical effect, which is going to trigger knockdown. The target's going to collapse in terror, and their defense is going to be again 0. But remember, the Lagahoo at this stage in the fight is on its last legs and has only 5 hit points left. This fight has been in my favor so far. Let's see if I can close it out right now. So, a Phantasmal Assault, I'm going to draw a card. That card is a 10, 10 and 14. Yeah, 10 and 4 from the trait rank. That is 14. Unfortunately, that doesn't beat defense of the Lagahoo, which is 15. So the Lagahoo takes no damage. Again, because a katana is a slashing weapon, I slash horizontally, trying to cut this dog, which has a coffin where its head's supposed to be, in half and finish this fight. The dog kind of like rears back and avoids the slash. Can't quite put this thing to bed. All right, next round, we have a card from the Lagahoo. It's a 2 of spades, and they have 8, so that's going to be 10 damage. I am going to, again, just keep using my reaction, which is a 9. You draw a card, so that's a joker. Jokers don't count. 7 and 9 is 16. That is more than 10. The 2 and 8. I am not taking any damage. Again, pounce from the Lagahoo in its dog form, the coffin where the head is supposed to be, and the single remaining lit candle on top. The dog pounces at me. Again, I sidestep away from it. My living room is in a state right now, and I avoided taking any damage. Whew. All right, here we go. Let's see if we can make this the final round. Queen. Well, I should have declared a skill first, so let's do that. Tactical Strike is on cooldown. Phantasmal Assault is on cooldown. I've got one more like attack capable skill, which is Flowing Parry, which is not on cooldown. One more turn. If this fight lasts that long, we'll return Tactical Strike off of cooldown. I'm going to use Flowing Parry, which is again Spade mastery skill. The rank for that is 9. What this is going to do, if I get hit by a melee attack, is going to negate the hit. That is going to kind of like trigger if there is a next round, but I can just use the trait rank to calculate the damage. It's only going to trigger if there's a hit next round. It's kind of like a delayed attack. 9, and we know what the card is. It's a queen. The Queen of Hearts, that skill is a spade skill, so there's no synergy there. The queen is 12, 12, and 9 is going to give me 21. So 21 damage, kind of like waiting the wings to hopefully put this fight to bed. It doesn't trigger on this turn. It's more for incoming hit. So this is going to be fun. And let's see. Let's keep this there so I know what that is. 21 damage pending. All right, drawn card, a 6 and a 8. 6 and 8 is 14. That is more than my passive defense. I'm not going to use active defense right now since I've got this skill called flowing parry. That's triggers, and that was 21 damage, which is more than the 15 passive defense for the Lagahoo. Now, the Lagahoo does have its own reaction it can make. I'm not going to do that now to kind of like draw this fight out. This is just a demo. Flowing Parry triggers. Again, the Lagahoo in its dog form slashes at me with its paws. My katana and me, whole thing is on fire. And I enter like this kind of flow state and I gracefully parry the incoming slash from the Lagahoo in its dog form with my blade before returning a slash. 21 damage is more than the remaining hit points for this, and that dispatches the Lagahoo. His forms dissolve, the final one, as the weapon finds them, each shape losing coherence where the fire touches it, and the chain growing quieter with each connection. What remains at the end is the original figure, headless and enormous still. The candles on the coffin going out one by one as the weapon drives him back towards the door he arrived through. The last candle goes out, the chain goes with him, the front door is, somehow, entirely undamaged. What you find after. The living room is the right size again. The floor has chain marks on it that were not there this morning. Guess I'm not getting back my security deposit. Your furniture is still standing. You've been on fire the entire time and nothing has burned. This is fine. Now, in the full game, you would have a total of 4 rooms and you would have just cleared 1. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, the end of this demo. 1 room, 1 monster, 1 replica weapon that was apparently never a replica. The fire goes out on its own when you clear the living room. Not dramatically, it doesn't gutter or roar, it simply stops. The way a light turns off, because a job is done and it knows it. You're standing in your living room, the weapon is in your hand. The apartment is quiet, everything is exactly as it was, except that you can feel the difference. A coolness where there was heat, a weight gone from the air, a sense that the square footage is finally fully yours. No bruises in the morning, no scratches you didn't put there, no waking up pinned, no missing food, no chain marks, no door that opens when it shouldn't. You set the weapon down on a coffee table. Nothing happens. It's just an object now. You are very tired. You've had an extremely unusual Tuesday. You go grab a cold, refreshing beverage. And that is it, folks. That is the end of the demo for Holy Flaming Samurai Man. I hope you really enjoyed it. Definitely check this game out. It's available on itch. I'll leave the link in the show notes or just put it on screen as you can see now. My name is Marc. Again, I am the creator and designer of Holy Flaming Samurai Man, new solo tactical roguelite zine RPG for solo players, and you can definitely check it out. I hope you have fun and check us back here, this same channel, for more Caribbean folklore solo RPG action.